I was kicked out of this place as if I hadn't withdrawn those words, as if Hansard recording of the event was accurate and true, when in fact, Mr. Speaker, we know it is not.
Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. In today's video, we got Rachel Thomas, who was kicked out of the House of Commons. She was the first one kicked out before Pierre Poilievre. We're going back a couple days. When she was asked to withdraw the comment by the Speaker, she said he was being dishonorable, and she said, I withdraw. But then the Speaker still kicked him out. And those comments, which are recorded in the automatic recording system called the Blues, get processed by someone, and then they get put into the Hansard, which is the official record. Now, the comments of I withdraw was removed. It was scrubbed from the official record, thus supporting Greg Fergus, the Speaker's actions of actually kicking her out. Now, she had a record of this before those changes were made, and she calls him on it, and this is scathing. Somebody changed the record to support the Liberals. This is a gross breach of ethics. This is... What else would you expect from the Trudeau Liberals?
I now recognize the honourable member from Lethbridge, who has given notice for a question of privilege.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of privilege today regarding a significant discrepancy between what was published in the Blues and what was published in Hansard of yesterday. The question of privilege that I raise also has to do with how I was treated by the Speaker of this House and how I was further portrayed publicly. The discrepancy between the Blues and what was published in the Hansard is the omission of two words, two very important documented words. An exchange between the Speaker and me during question period yesterday. The Blues recorded the following statement by the Speaker. I quote directly. If the honourable member for Lethbridge has problems with the chair, she should challenge the chair in a respectful way. But as the honourable member knows, challenging the chair is against the rules of this House. I ask the honourable member to please withdraw her remarks. To which I replied and rose in my space to say this, quote, Mr. Speaker, I stated that the chair is acting in a disgraceful manner. I withdraw. In the Hansard recording, two words are missing. The words, I withdraw.
Wow.
That said, it should be noted that it is reported in Hansard that at least one member did point out to the Speaker that these words in fact were spoken. It says under the heading, an honourable other member, it says the following, quote, she withdrew it. In the audio recording, many other members were heard drawing attention to this fact, asking for the Speaker to do the same.
I'm going to ask the honourable member from Lethbridge if she has problems with the chair, that she should challenge the chair in a way. But as she knows, as the honourable member from Lethbridge knows, that by challenging the chair is against the rules of this House. I'll ask the honourable member to please to ask her to withdraw her remarks.
The chair is acting in a disgraceful manner.
I'm going to ask you.
Acting in a disgraceful manner.
I'm going to ask you.
These words, Mr. Speaker, are significant because they demonstrate that I complied with the Speaker, your request to withdraw. It demonstrates that my withdrawal was not conditional, but rather it was proper and textbook. Therefore, it ought to have been accepted. Yet, I was kicked out of this place for the remainder of the day, as if I hadn't withdrawn those words, or to put it another way, as if Hansard recording of the event was accurate and true, when in fact, Mr. Speaker, we know it is not. If you were to check the audio recording, it clearly picked up the two words that are also recorded in the Blues. It is worth noting that in Chapter 24 of Bosch and Gagnon, it states, quote, the chamber is equipped with cameras operated from a control room, invisible from the floor of the House. The recording of the proceedings is governed by guidelines intended to preserve the concept of the electronic Hansard, as adopted by the House. The two words, Mr. Speaker, that were edited out of the Hansard essentially rewrote history, making the actions and procedure followed by the Speaker, you, appear proper and mine improper. As you know, I was removed from the chamber for the remainder of the day and I was prohibited from being able to participate in debate or vote on behalf of the constituents who have sent me here. Therefore, the constituents of Lethbridge were robbed of having a presence and a voice in the House of Commons, their democratic right. It was especially egregious given the fact that there was a scheduled vote immediately following question period that day. If you go to the House of Commons site, the blues, unfortunately, are no longer available. Interesting. Which makes a person curious as to why. If you attempt to access the blues today, you will get this message, quote, "Blues are available while the House is in session until the Hansard is published." The blues are taken down. Luckily, though, Mr. Speaker, for you, I kept a copy of those blues that were sent to me yesterday at the end of the day, and I have them available to submit to you here.
Interesting.
And I will just point out that if we flip through them, on this page here, you can see my words are kindly highlighted for you.
Wow. Obstruction.
Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we are fortunate to also have access to the audio recording, which still exists and does not lie.
It's real funny, isn't it? Yeah.
She is
Hilarious.
At pages 1228 to 1229 of the third edition of House of Commons Procedure and Practice, it states, quote, "The unedited in extenso transcripts of the debates at one time produced on blue paper continue to be known as the blues. Parliamentary publications staff send to each member who speaks in the House the transcription of the member's intervention. The blues are also published on the House of Commons internal website. The availability of the blues on the House of Commons internal website permits members and their authorized delegates to use the web page or email to submit suggested changes for parliamentary publications editorial staff to consider. Members may suggest corrections to errors and minor altercations to the transcription, but may not make material changes to the meaning of what was said in the House." I'm going to read that part again because it's really important. They may not make material changes to the meaning of what was said in the House. So it's interesting then that the blues said one thing, but Hansard said another, and I did not ask for those changes to be made. The third edition of the House of Commons procedure goes on to say this: "It is a long-standing practice of the House that editors of the debates may exercise judgment as to whether or not changes suggested by members constitute the correction of an error or a minor alteration. The editors may likewise alter a sentence to render it more readable, but may not go so far as to change its meaning. Editors must ensure that the debates are a faithful reflection of what was said. Any changes made, whether by the members or editors, are for the sole purpose of improving the readability of the text, given the difference between the spoken and written word." End quote.
This is not looking good for the Liberals. Somebody went in there and changed that to make Fergus look better and get him off the hook for kicking her out. It's a pretty serious thing to kick someone out, and somebody knew about it and said, hey, we better just wipe that clean, and don't worry, they won't look it up, they won't have records. Looks like she had some records and she noticed, and now it's being broadcast to the rest of Canada. This is... well, I mean, what else do you expect from the Liberals? Just lie, cheat, and steal. That's all they do. This is just gross. There has to be punishment for this kind of stuff.
Clearly, Mr. Speaker, I did not suggest any changes to the officials with regard to Hansard. Bosch and Gagnon state that the editors can make alterations but cannot make changes that go so far as to change the meaning of what was said. In the case I raised today, the significant difference in meaning without these two words, "I withdraw," being published in Hansard obviously is very significant. On page 1229, it goes on to say, when a question arises in the House as to the accuracy of the record, it is the responsibility of the Speaker to look into the matter. In this case, the edit, otherwise known as the deletion of two very significant words, is far more noteworthy than simply improving the readability of a sentence. I believe you'll agree. The justification used by the Speaker to admonish and remove me from the chamber does not match the evidence presented in the blues and by the audio recording that you may also access. The Speaker's actions do, however, fit very nicely with the altered text published in the Hansard. On page 82 of Bosch and Gagnon, it describes a list of items to be considered a contempt, and on that list is, quote, falsifying or altering any papers belonging to the House, end quote. At page 248 of Joseph Magnon's Parliamentary Privilege in Canada, second edition, it states, quote, the House of Commons of Canada remains prepared to entertain legitimate questions of privilege where false or perverted reports of debates or proceedings are published, end quote. While this passage refers to inaccurate media reports of what was published in Hansard, it is no less offensive, and in fact perhaps more offensive, that this happened right here in the House of Commons. At pages 81 to 83 of Bosch Gagnon, it states, and I quote, throughout the Commonwealth, most procedural authorities hold that contempts, as opposed to privileges, cannot be enumerated or categorized. Speaker Sauvé explained in a 1980 ruling, while our privileges are defined, contempt of the House has no limits. When new ways are found to interfere with our proceedings, so too will the House, in appropriate cases, be able to find that a contempt of the House has occurred. Just as it is not possible to categorize or to delineate every incident which may fall under the definition of contempt, it is also difficult to categorize the severity of contempt. Contempts may vary greatly in their gravity. Matters ranging from minor breaches of decorum to grave attacks against the authority of Parliament may be considered as contempts. End quote. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be debated or disputed that someone deliberately removed 2 words from the blues, and that these 2 words have great significance. It cannot be debated or disputed that it therefore changed the meaning of the events yesterday and the way that they would be interpreted, thus resulting in an inaccurate negative reflection of me, which was then broadcasted to my constituents and to all people across Canada. Furthermore, this inaccurate account of events resulted in my wrongful dismissal from this place by you, thus robbing me of the right to represent the constituents of Lethbridge here in the House of Commons and to cast a vote on their behalf, again robbing them of their democratic right. Which leads to another aspect of privilege, and that is improper reflections upon a member. On October 20th, 1966, the member for Edmonton Strathcona rose on a question of privilege that came out of an article in Le Droit of October 14th by Marcel Pépin. He argued that the article imputed an improper motive to him and was a gross distortion of the facts of something that occurred in the House. The Speaker ruled the matter to be a prima facie question of privilege on October 24th, 1966. In my case, it is the Hansard that has recorded a gross distortion of the facts, an act that can be substantiated by the blues and the audio recordings of the procedures I referred to from yesterday, April 30th. I will give another example. On March 22nd, 1983, Speaker Sauvé ruled on a question of privilege relating to false and libelous accusations against the member for Lincoln that had been published in the Montreal Gazette. The Speaker felt that a reflection upon the reputation of an honourable member is a matter of great concern to all members of the House. And the Speaker said at that time, quote, "It places the entire institution under a cloud, as it suggests that among the members of the House there are some who are unworthy to sit there. An allegation of criminal or other dishonourable conduct inevitably affects the member's ability to function effectively while the matter remains unresolved." End quote.
I can't see how Fergus can stay as the Speaker after this dishonorable conduct. We'll call it what it is. I would love to see a camera on his face during this too, because you'd be able to tell a lot from his facial expression. Unfortunately, there's just no angle of it. There are cameras, but they just, like, I wish they'd split screen this and show his face too. How do they argue out of this? Even if Fergus says, oh, it wasn't me, it was someone else, it doesn't matter. What he did is the point. The fact that someone stepped up, whether it's Fergus and say, hey, you better delete that. Fergus is right next to her. Whether it was Fergus to say, you know, delete those I withdraw comments, or someone else, it doesn't matter. Fergus is horribly biased and needs to go. I know there's some people calling for like, well, we don't want to have, I think it was Elizabeth May said, oh, well, we've already had, you know, Anthony Rhoda had to step down because of the whole funny mustache man from 1940s situation. Yahtzee. And it would be such a bad look on Canada to have two speakers have to step down. Maybe it's a bad look on Canada if we have too many of these liberals being horribly corrupt and having to step down because they're corrupt. Maybe that's the real issue, not people stepping down. It's time to clean out this skunk hole because it stinks. It stinks in Canada. It stinks in the Liberal Party of Canada.
Mr. Speaker, the matter I am addressing today is grave in nature and calls for your utmost attention. In summary, the matter I am bringing to your attention today has three components. 1, the Speaker's ruling to expel me from the House. 2, the improper alteration of the Hansard. And 3, the inaccurate reporting as to the role that I played here in this place. Mr. Speaker, if you rule this matter to be a prima facie question of privilege, I am prepared to move the appropriate motion today.
I thank the honourable member.
Oh, now you get to see him. So something to note too, look how close she is. She is one of the closest members to him. There's only like, what, 2 seats here closer? So obviously he heard that. It's not like it was one of the members in the NDP that are way, you know, down here in the back corner. She's right there. He heard that. He definitely heard it. He should have said, oh, I'm sorry. He should have just called himself on it, said, okay, you're allowed to sit down. Yeah, I heard you withdrew, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't do that. He's like, no, let's just kick her out of here because I'm on a power trip and I've been talking to Trudeau and he's been teaching me how to do it. So there's no excuse here, Fergus.
Thank the honourable member from Lethbridge for raising this matter of question of privilege. I do encourage her, please, to share all the information that she would like to have the speakership to evaluate, and certainly we will take this with extreme importance.
Yeah, sure.
I see that the honourable member from from Burnaby, New Westminster Burnaby, is rising on the same question.
So when someone's flushed, they're nervous, they're stressed, they're what this man is, they start making mess ups with their words, they don't know what to say, they're fumbling with the names, they start getting forgetful. That's what Fergus is here, because he knows he was just caught red-handed, and now he's trying to call out the next member, and he's like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
I see that the honourable member from from Burnaby, New Westminster Burnaby.
Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this situation. It is a breach in the trust of our democracy in this House. And I actually got a quick clip here of Elizabeth May saying exactly this.
It's critical that there never be any question as to the accuracy of Hansard in recording our remarks in this place. So, Mr. Speaker, I know that the honourable member for Lethbridge, I know that she said there could be no other explanation for the changes between what she said, and I accept her word on that, and what appears in Hansard. I always leave open the possibility for an innocent explanation of somebody making an error. But I don't think we can leave this matter where any assumptions are made of what happened. I urge you, Mr. Speaker, to investigate this thoroughly, to ensure that none of us can have any doubts in our mind that what appears in Hansard is an accurate reflection of what members have said, and that there's no possibility of any interference from any quarter in the words spoken and the printed Hansard, that they are 100% in alignment with the truth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The problem with this is it's basically like asking the bank robber, like, oh, did you steal something? Like, the speaker can't be the one that's directing this stuff at him when he's directly involved. And what's going to happen here if they do dig into it and the Liberals, I bet you Justin Trudeau's like, okay, yeah, who's the one we told to change those records? Okay, just fire that person, blame them. And that's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to get fired for this. They'll just blame that person, even though it probably came from one of those Liberals sitting right next there that heard that, or from Greg Fergus himself, because he was the closest Liberal to Rachel Thomas when this happened. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this. It is just more of the same from Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, just corrupt and broken system in Canada. Day in and day out, this government is an embarrassment to this country. It's an embarrassment to the world. So we'll keep fighting for freedom here. I'll keep bringing you guys the news. I greatly appreciate all you. Thanks for watching the video here. Be sure to subscribe here on my second channel. If you guys want to check out some merch, I got some new merch down below. We'll keep fighting for freedom. I'll see you guys in the next one.